Oh. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. Vegan guns for justice. Joe Biden has Kamala Harris as his VP pick. Well, thank God that the author of the 1994 crime bill and the former attorney general of the state behind bars have teamed up. Oh, you know what that is? A little like, hey, Americans, some conservatives, libertarian, whatever, who don't like all of these protests and riots, we just went, wink, don't worry, it's going to be more law and order. Joe Biden, who has said he will not defund the police. Kamala Harris has said they will not defund the police. And neoliberals are going, yay, Biden Harris, you go, girl. Like, it's amazing. Great, more authoritarian Democrats whose their Twitter feeds are going to be polite. So when unmarked vans snatch up protests when Biden and Harris are in the White House, it won't bother you, right? So like when Obama and Biden, had federal troops beating the shit out of people at Occupy Wall Street, at Standing Rock, at Baltimore during the Freddie Gray protests, the neoliberal wine moms and the vote any blue will do crowd, they didn't care. It didn't bother them. So they'll go back to sleep. But I want you to know, if you're not sure who Kamala Harris is, you just think she's going to resist Trump. Trump's awful. I don't like him. Don't want him to be president anymore. But your lesser of two evil things is preposterous because it brings in this. And anyone's like, oh, Graham, you're racist. Really? I'd love Nina Turner to be the vice president. But that's not going to happen because she said voting for Joe Biden is like getting a bowl. If somebody gave you a half a bowl of shit, you're still eating a bowl of shit. Nina Turner said that. If Nina Turner was running for president, I would join her campaign and I would take a bullet for her. That's what I would do for Nina Turner. This is Kamala Harris, by the way. Just want you to know who Kamala Harris is. Everybody out there, all the vote and evil do pot, anyone who's been there protesting, good for you for doing the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protests. You've been out there and the cops have been kicking your ass in cities like Seattle and Portland and Chicago and Los Angeles, all with Democrat mayors. Here's what the former attorney general, district attorney of San Francisco, I'm going to talk about that in a second, and the attorney general of the state of California, here's what she thinks. If you're out there who thinks we need to spend more money, like defund the police and spend more money on we need more money on schools, not on riot gear and stuff like that. Here's what she thinks.
Okay, so I say with all love and warmth that part of the concern also for people who are progressive thinking and liberal minded, or just progressive thinking in terms of just fix it, is that we all have these posters in our closet that is attached to a stick that we sometimes will card out when we're talking about criminal justice policy and those statistics that you first heard when we opened it up, incarceration. And we run around with these signs, build more schools, less jails. Build more schools, less jails. And we walk around everywhere, build more.
Stop saying we, Kamala. You've never held a sign like that in your life because you get money from the private prison industry. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
We protest, build more schools, less jails. Put money into education, not prisons. There's a fundamental problem with that approach, in my opinion. And it's this. I agree with that conceptually, but you have not addressed the reason I have 3 padlocks on my front door.
Yes, we have. Actually, the reason you have 3 padlocks on your front door is because we haven't built enough schools, because we've built more prisons, because we have a for-profit prison industry that supports candidates like you. The private prison industry is ecstatic that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could potentially be the new administration. They're ecstatic. Remember now, Vice President Biden was there when Obama deported 3 million people. They separated families at the borders for 8 years under the Obama-Biden years. That's her just mocking you. If you're for more schools and less prisons, she just mocked you. Are you okay with that? This is the problem with the vote any blue will do, lesser of two evils. This is the problem. All those white people out now, right now, who have been waking up to like white privilege, myself included, right? I'm a middle-class white guy. I've had a lot of white privilege. And we're all us white people are really having to look at the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and go, wow. Maybe any white person that's like, man, I used to say, not all cops are bad. I didn't think that, I just thought it was a few bad apples. I don't think that there's systemic racism. And now people are going, wow, there is systemic racism that has been in this country for centuries. And it's definitely on the books legally in the criminal justice system. We see the alarming rates. Young black men are way more likely to go to jail. Way more, if a white kid gets busted with weed and a black kid gets busted with weed, the white kid gets a slap on the wrist, the black kid goes to jail. We've seen those statistics are like waking all these white people like, oh my God. So when you say lesser of two evils and Trump's bad, and anytime I say the Democratic Party's bad, then neoliberals always go, but Graham, what do you like, Trump? Am I just supposed to vote for Trump? No, I'm waking you up to the fact that the whole system is broken. You want to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Great. But the Democratic Party and the political system that they are a part of and profit from does not give a shit about you or me. And they do not want to defund the police. She does not want that. So the refusal to wake up to the corruption of the Democratic Party is just like white people saying, I don't see race. All lives matter. Not all cops are bad. There's just a few bad apples. It's the same thing. Your denial of systemic racism is the same thing as your denial of the corruption of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the Republican Party of the 80s and early 90s. The Republicans have gone so far right that they're fascists. And you say, Graham, Trump is a Nazi. Yeah, Trump's an awful Nazi. Now, but this, those are her words. You want to hear what Joe Biden thought in 1994?
You must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons. I hope this crime bill, when it passes, the Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing, I hope that we will have ended once and for all this notion that somehow Democrats are weak on crime. The consensus is A, we must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. We all agree on that. Now, we can find some fringe folks and left-wingers in my party who say, no, that's not what we should do. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without any conscience developing, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society.
I don't care if someone's a malefactor. I don't care that somebody had a shitty childhood and no opportunities and their only choice was crime. I don't care about fixing that problem. Do you see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do not give a shit about any of the economic reasons that cause crime? I'm not excusing somebody who commits an awful crime. I'm not excusing that. But what got them to that position? And if they talk this tough about the crimes committed by Wall Street, they would have my vote, but they don't. They talk this tough about poor people mainly, and poor people of color.
Try to help them, try to change their behavior, but they are in jail.
I'm sorry. This is, I mean, of course, Joe Biden, I'm not shocked. He picked somebody, another corporate Democrat that's in favor of private prisons and gets money from but let's not forget this about Kamala Harris. She's the tough cop. Let's just make it real clear. Poor people, mainly of color, she put behind bars. When she had an opportunity to arrest Steve Mnuchin and George Soros, who was a huge owner of One West Bank, she had over 1,000 pieces of hard evidence showing mortgage fraud, which is a felony, as the Attorney General of the state of California. Attorney General of the state of California. This is not a wacky coincidence. Steve Mnuchin donated to her campaign as Attorney General. Donated to her campaign. She started as a district attorney. When she was a district attorney, she failed to prosecute pedophile priests in San Francisco. She was district attorney of the city of San Francisco. She didn't prosecute pedophile priests, and she wouldn't release the names of pedophile priests. Isn't that weird? She's now teaming up with Joe Biden, who has ties to Epstein, as I have done on numerous videos here. The Democratic Party, who's speaking at the Democratic Convention? Bill Clinton on Epstein's plane 26 times. Hillary was on the plane 2 times. Bill and Hillary were at Epstein's compound numerous times. So in the same way that Trump has done almost nothing, William Barr finally, it wasn't even him really, it was someone within his office that prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell or arrested her. Her trial's not for another year, which gives her plenty of time to, can't take it anymore and hang herself with a paper t-shirt. I just want to give you, I'm connecting all of these dots. You might think, oh, Graham, you're going off on tangents. No, I am not. I am showing you why Biden and Kamala Harris is just more of the same. The tweets will be nice and okay, they'll protect Roe v. Wade. But an economic collapse is coming. And one of the reasons an economic collapse is coming is because Joe Biden and Barack Obama didn't prosecute any of the bankers, and neither did corporate Democrats like Kamala Harris. So again, Steve Mnuchin donated to her attorney general campaign when she was attorney general of the state of California, and the mortgage crisis collapsed in 2008 and 9 and 10. They started getting the investigation and seeing that One West Bank was committing mortgage fraud. She had over 1,000 pieces of evidence and could have put Steve Mnuchin and George Soros behind bars and did not. She said we didn't have enough evidence. And all these other people within her office were like, we have more than enough evidence. Journalists, everybody's like, there's more than enough evidence to prosecute these people. They didn't. And then Steve Mnuchin donated to her senatorial campaign. When she became senator, she voted for Steve Mnuchin to be Secretary of Treasury. So I just want all of the neoliberal, yay. I'm all for diversity, but not the diversity of the ruling class. Not this. This is not the good diversity. This is just, she's going to be corporate. She's going to be good for Wall Street. While we're all sitting here struggling for work and facing this like looming economic collapse. Right now, our economy is not doing well, but it's being propped up. It is going to collapse worse than what happened when the stock market crashed in 1929, worse than the 2008 housing crisis. Take those two together, combine them, and then you're going to have that with the 6 years or more of just political and social upheaval of the late 60s and 70s. Take all that together, add it up, multiply it by 10. That's what's coming. 28 million foreclosures are coming because Obama and Biden didn't pass any real regulation at all. They didn't put any executives behind bars. Nobody was prosecuted. In Iceland, they put the bankers in jail. So Kamala Harris likes talking about how much of a tough cop she is. She's a tough cop against poor people. That's who she's going to prosecute. And you better believe everybody up in Portland, good for you. Hats off for all that work. If they're in the White House and you keep protesting, you better believe they're going to send federal troops to kick your ass. You better believe there's going to be unmarked vans. Why do I know this? Because the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, was signed by who? President Barack Obama in December of 2011. that said federal troops can just arrest American citizens on American soil with no due process. They don't even need a search warrant. They don't even need a reason, just like those cops did in Portland. They just snatched people up. And you think this is going to be different? No, I'm not telling you to vote for Trump. I'm telling you the whole system is broken. And just like people are waking up to how broken the police, our justice system is, you don't think there's any connection to the two-party system and how corrupt it is? And you telling the Democratic Party, I will vote for anyone you give me, you're telling them you don't have to put politicians and policies that will help me. Harris and Biden, neither one of them were for Medicare for all. In the middle of a pandemic, don't you think we all need free health care? They're not for student debt forgiveness. So there's going to be all these incremental changes if they get in the White House, but nothing real will change. And we're going to have an economic collapse, and they're going to send troops to come kick your ass because Obama and Biden did that for 8 years, just like George W. Bush did. Who got rid of Glass-Steagall? FDR era banking regulation that was necessary and it was on the books for decades because we needed it. Who got rid of that in 1999? That's right, Bill Clinton. In the middle of the Monica Lewinsky cocktail dress reality TV show, he did that, and nobody in the mainstream media talked about it. Nobody called Kamala out except Tulsi Gabbard called her out. Do you remember that? Do you remember when Tulsi Gabbard called her out? Do you remember that? When Tulsi Gabbard called her out. And I'm going to bring that up in a second. It was an amazing moment when Tulsi Gabbard called her out. Remember this during the Democratic debates when Kamala thought she was a top-tier candidate, and this is what crushed her presidential run and actually boosted Tulsi Gabbard's numbers. This made me want to vote for Tulsi Gabbard. This was making me hope that Bernie was going to pick her as his VP, and they would have crushed everybody. But he didn't, because Bernie folded, Tulsi folded. But this is what we wanted Tulsi to do the whole time. This is what we wanted Bernie to do the whole time.
As a prosecutor, and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Oh, this is why I tell you, you cannot reform the Democratic Party from within. So when Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders and AOC say, oh, Trump's awful. He's awful. He's acting like a crazy fascist dictator, but the Democratic Party allowed him to become president. He's the most beatable guy I've ever seen in my life in 2016. They screwed over Bernie twice, and twice he didn't really fight back. And there's no progressive leadership in the party anymore. We have no leaders. So, okay, Biden and Kamala Harris, if they get in the White House, all right, they'll listen to scientists and that'll help with this pandemic, which is not a small thing. Okay. But I just really want everybody to see. And I'm all for, again, I was a big supporter of Tulsi Gabbard, a woman of color to be president. Oh, I would love for her to have been Secretary of State or vice president under Bernie. But they keep getting shunned. And Tulsi called out Kamala Harris. She called out Hillary Clinton. And then she still plays ball. When you play ball with this Democratic Party, they're going to screw you. Look at Liz Warren, man. She's done everything to do. She'll do whatever the party tells her to do, plays every little game, and they give her nothing. Like you still want the cool kids to like you. And you know what I'm talking about. The Bernie, the Tulsi, and all the AOC, they still at the end of the day want the cool kids to like them. And corporate Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and the Clintons and the Obamas and Biden, they don't give a shit. Kamala Harris played ball. So she got clocked in the primary. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard took her out. That's what happens. So why Tulsi and Bernie and AOC are still like drinking this Kool-Aid, thinking leave that party, but they all said no. 2017, 2018, the draft Bernie campaign said leave, start an independent party, and everyone would have got on board. And this is what happened. This is what you get. I'm all for diversity, but if they got to be real leaders, they got to be real people. They can't just be like, because again, we have female mayors and female chiefs of police who are out on the streets every day beating the shit out of protesters and shooting tear gas and rubber bullets. And because America is an evil war machine, we are the bad guys. We are the repressive society. This notion that we are a free society, we are not. Because this is when we are desensitized to this murder. We've been desensitized like this for decades. And again, I'm all for people of color and women and provided I care more about somebody's policies and voting record than anything else. I wasn't that excited in 2016. I'm like, okay, some old dude from Vermont, I guess. But then I listened to his policies and his platforms. I went, that's why I'm voting for him. And Nina Turner, wake up and get out of that party. Jesse Ventura, run as an independent. Jesse Ventura and Nina Turner on an independent ticket, no party affiliation. Boom. Because let's just get more women in there. Okay, but remember Madeleine Albright? Did she bring some nice female energy to the State Department?
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know.
Let me clarify, 60 Minutes. That's more than the total casualties that all of America suffered in World War II. We lost over about 419,000 people. Roughly 15,000 of them were service members in Europe, and then there was Pearl Harbor, which was some civilians, but so we killed more Iraqi children. This is in the 90s, by the way, under Bill Clinton's presidency. These are sanctions. And this is what Madeleine Albright had to say. So this is our media going, wow, that's more than died in Hiroshima. That's more than we lost as a nation in service members in World War II by 80,000.
Is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
1996. 500,000 dead Iraqi children. The price is worth it. This is the Democratic Party. The Republicans are awful. No two ways about it. Trump and the Republicans, Pompeo, they're evil. They're awful. I've done a million videos on it. They're awful. But this is what you get with the lesser two evils. You know who else thought you're a chump if you voted for the Democratic Party? Malcolm X.
You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump. The party that you bash controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you. Because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Malcolm X words, not mine. He's talking about what was going down in the 60s, man. The Democrats controlled 2/3 of the government. We control Congress. This is 50 some years later. We're still doing the same bullshit. It's mystifying to me. It's mystifying to me. All right. Kamala Biden. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. All you people out there protesting, good for you. I've gone to some protests. Anyone out there seeing the fascist cops of the United States and federal troops and local police departments, do not lose sight that this has been happening for a long time. The Patriot Act was signed and was put out there by George W. Bush, and a bunch of Democrats, including Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, signed it, said yes. Said yes. And people like Pelosi have extended the Patriot Act for years. We have been at war in Afghanistan for 19 years. Okay, Biden and Harris, great. Trump's gone. Everybody on the left going to go back to sleep, going to go back to brunch. Going to mock protesters the way a lot of liberals mocked Occupy Wall Street. Now, when they don't even have a purpose. You watch that show Newsroom, written by neoliberal Hollywood millionaire Aaron Sorkin, mocking Occupy Wall Street. Okay. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. So when Biden and Kamala Harris oppress the shit out of you, and they will, because an economic collapse is coming, and people protest them, you're going to get mad at them? What are you going to do when people like myself, way on the left? I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a right winger. I'm not alt-right. I don't even call myself a progressive anymore. I'm an anti-war, pro-labor socialist. You're going to get mad at me, aren't you? Some neoliberal is going to get mad at me. Graham, you're helping Trump win. All I did was give you facts about the Democratic Party, facts about what they've done, and I get blamed. This is the definition of like people that live in an alcoholic household. The alcoholic parents are doing all this abusive, awful shit, and one of the kids goes, "Hey, this ain't right," and you're yelled at. You make dad drink. Every time you cause problems, that's why he drinks and beats us. No, he's a violent alcoholic who's a dick. If you weren't causing problem, mom wouldn't have to drink. No, she's an alcoholic. All right, vote any blue will do. Go for it. But like Malcolm X said, you're a chump. Thanks for watching the show. My name is Graham Elwood. Support me at grahamelwood.com or give your money to the Democratic Party and they'll laugh. They will laugh. They don't need your money because they get their money from big corporate donors. The private prison industry, the big pharmaceutical companies, they pay for people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's campaign. That's who supported their campaigns. That's why they were against Medicare for all. The reason, so when they get get in power, and you still don't have free health care, and you've lost your job, and you're in debt because of COVID, and the economy hasn't come back, even if they find a vaccine, they won't do shit for you because they haven't in the past. And now they've got your vote, and they're already in the White House, so they don't care. And Mike Pence will run in 2024, and they'll go, oh, Pence, Trump, and you'll vote, oh, anybody will do. We have to stop them. And you'll just keep giving them your vote. If you tell me you will vote for me no matter what, I have no incentive to do what you're asking me to do once I get into power. I got your vote. I got the donors' money from the big corporations. I don't give a shit about you. That's what the Democratic Party has been doing since the 60s. That's what Malcolm X said. But no. The definition of insanity is not doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. The definition of insanity is voting for a third party. Your Burn Bros in the Green Party, Jill Stein, took our votes away from Hillary, who's a pedophile. Anyway, I could go on for hours. Thanks for watching, folks. Hey, everybody, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button and the subscribe button, even if you've done it before, because they're unsubscribing, many of you, every day. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. Also, support us at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Rockfin.com is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All my videos are on Rockfin ad-free. Thanks for watching.